This is U.S. Army Closer Look.
I think the job is pretty awesome.
Innovating.
Insight.
Soldiers.
Mission.
Closer Look.
Closer look.
Those who were there.
And what we need to make sure is we have the most capable Army to deliver specific effects on a battlefield relative to U.S. national security interests.
Those experiences, those strategies.
Closer look.
Closer look.
Army Media. We continue from part 1 of James C. McCloughan's story of the battle, where he earned the Medal of Honor. New Yon Hill, Vietnam.
About 10 meters away, there's two NVA looking at me just like I'm looking at you. Only they got AK-47s in their hands, and I had given my weapon up, and Folger and Aiken, they don't have any weapons either, and I said, "Gentlemen, follow me." And I turned and I sprinted down that trench line, and then I realized this is slowing me up, so I got out into the open because I could run faster. And I'm weaving and then literally could hear and see the bullets skipping off the ground. They're firing at me. Find out later on that Folger froze in the trench line and he got killed. Aiken didn't follow me. He took his own path and he got captured. I'm estimating I've ran about 40 yards, and I wished I'd had a clock on me because I know it's the fastest I've ever ran a 40-yard dash in my life. And weaving, I might even beat my record while I was weaving instead of running straight. And I hear my name called, medic. Well, it's a guy by the name of Simpson Nita. So I turn and run back towards the assault, and I pick him up, and I finally find out how far back Hatton and Mittendorf and a few others have. Then I hear another sound, medic. Don't go out there, Doc. Hatton says, I got to. I go out and I get another machine gunner that's been trapped out there by the name of Kairos. And I brought Mike in and I patched him up right away because I wanted to get his machine gun going along with these other two guys. And I hear another call for a medic. So I go out there again, and it's Tay, our interpreter, and I cannot describe to you the feeling, the empty feeling I had in my stomach when I looked at him and all I saw was a Vietnamese face, and I didn't know whether I'd been trapped by a North Vietnamese, because they will do this. We knew as medics, they told us they'll call for a medic and they'll sound like an American, and they're just trying to get you to come to them so they can kill you. So that's what I thought I'd been trapped. Then I realized it was Tay, and I threw him up on my shoulder and I got him back. The next time I tried to go out, Hatton is going to try to tackle me. He even told me, he says, I didn't want you getting killed because even though that was nice and brave of you, Doc, but we needed you. And at this point, I'm saying you can patch anybody who can make their own way back in, but don't go out there and get killed. So anyway, but the last guy that I go out to get, and I'm going to back up a little bit. As I was in that trench line and realized that the front squad had gotten hit, I saw this American soldier running back towards the unit. My last person to retrieve had a sucking chest wound, and those are bad. Those are one of the worst. So I got my plastic off of the pressure bandage. I put it over the hole so that doggone thing won't collapse. And I put the pressure bandage on and get on there as tight as I can, and I put him in a position. And then I'm called over to this guy that's got a leg wound, been shot in the leg. Well, I saw that guy that was running I heard a shot and I saw him start limping right away. This was that Chuck Matthews who would have been the point man, but had to carry the radio, and he just dumped the radio, and by the way, later on we had to change our frequency because that radio's out there, so we had to change our frequencies. And he's been shot in the leg. I find out later on that no bone had been hit, no major vessel had been hit, and that's why there was just a little trickle of blood coming out of this wound. I patched him up. Now I told him as soon as I had started working on Francis Patton with a sucking chest wound, we needed a helicopter and we needed it quick, because I knew that this guy is going to have to get in there quickly if we're going to save his life. Well, they couldn't get in. They're getting fired upon, they couldn't get in. And when they did finally get in and I got everybody on, Lieutenant Carrier says to me, "Get on, Doc." Well, now I look down and I've got blood all over me. And then my thought goes back to being on top of the berm and explosion and feeling the ping, and I realized, yeah, I'm in. I said, "No, I'm not getting on." He said, "Why not?" Quote unquote, I said to him, "You're gonna need me." As I said, I looked up on that hill and saw those little ants coming down that hill, so I knew that it was a lot of people out there. How many? I still didn't know. What we heard later on is anything from 1,500 to 2,500 NVA and VC out there. He didn't force me to get on a helicopter. Another guy that didn't get on was Joe Mittendorf. He had gotten hit out there probably when he was leaving me, or maybe about the same time I got hit. He got hit with some fragmentation from RPG. So I'm pulling the metal out of him and getting him patched up the best I can, and NVA backed off for a while now, and we've gotten everybody on the helicopter, and there's a few other minor wounds I'd taken care of, and then I finally took care of my own, and they harassed us all night long. I mean, and Carrier, he called in rounds, artillery rounds and mortar rounds and that type of thing to keep them off, and we'd have a couple of helicopters come over the top with the gunners on them during the night, but I could just tell they're not trying to get us. They're not trying to get us yet. There's a plan I think they've got, and I don't know how long we're going to be here. I don't know if we're all going to leave here, or none of us are going to leave here. So morning comes and they back off again. So the guys, they start getting something to eat, and I'm going around taking care of the malaria tablets and this and that and the other thing. Now, I haven't had anything to eat or drink since just being combat assaulted out at 10 o'clock in the morning on the 13th, and I'm still doing my job. And afternoon comes and I have more heat casualties, and I'm still doing my job. Don't have time to eat or drink, and 4 o'clock, we get orders they want us to move. Find another position, because they figured the enemy can't get us if we move positions. And I'm thinking, they're crazy. Obviously, they're not aware, even though we've sent all of these people in, all of these people from my platoon, the people that had heat exhaustion, they got to know that we're not only low with 89 guys, we're down into the 70s, maybe even the 60s by now range. But that's what we're going to do. So my second platoon had led the way, or had gone out the night before. They want first platoon to be the point platoon to go out. They don't get out as far as we did, and they're hit with an ambush. It says in all of the articles that have been put out that I saved 10 American and 1 Vietnamese soldier. This is only talking about going into the kill zone. I probably saved more than that, guys that made it in on their own and patched them. But the fact is, they weren't all in my platoon, because the second day, we lose our only other medic we got, and that's Dan Shea, who was posthumously awarded the Congressional Medal of Honor. He was going about his 4th time when he was killed. And I got him in, got his body in, and now I'm the only medic. And although he and I were doing the same things, now it's Jim McCloughan, you're solo. And I'm obviously in a realization mode that you know what your duty is, and although you're the only guy, you're gonna do it. So I downed my pack near a tree and got all of my pressure bandages and everything out of there, put them in all of the pockets that I had, and I retreated into the perimeter, and now I start going out to get men. And I've already dragged a couple in. One I carried in and one I dragged in because he was heavy. There's no way I was carrying that guy in. And I see a guy laying out there, and he's near a trench line, and a guy by the name of Tom Posdel has written Tam Key, The Battle of New Yon Hill, and he states there was a guy next to him in a trench line with a stomach wound. And I gotta think this is the guy, because I go out there and here he is, the guy with the stomach wound. This guy's got a stomach wound, been shot in the stomach. This is real serious. I can't move him. I've got to get bandages on him and get moistness on the bandages. Finally get him patched up, and I kind of get him back into the trench line, gently back in the trench line. And I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to carry this guy. I can't throw him over my shoulders, and I've got to get him through the crossfire, and I got to get him to the perimeter. So I decide that I'm going to carry him like a baby, and all of a sudden this thought hits me. I hadn't told my dad since I was a boy that I loved him. You didn't do that in the 60s and 50s, you know. You just didn't, men didn't say that to each other. So I bargained with God, and I said, look, if you get me out of this hell on earth, this hellhole, I'll be the best dad, the best coach, the best teacher that I can be. But I want to tell my dad face to face that I love him again, give him a hug. And then I left it in his hands. Picked the guy up like a baby and got him to safety, put him in a safe area. Then another major wound happens, and I crawl out. A guy by the name of Kent Nielsen, a machine gunner, got shot through the shoulder, come out the front. I get him in, patch him up, leave them in a nice safe area, and I've got about 4 or 5 people here that are badly enough wounded that I wanted them as safe as they could be, and yet I could get back to them during the night. I did use some more of my drinking water, which I still haven't had any to drink, and I said to myself, I can't drink it now because I'm going to have to use it on this stomach wound, keep it moist. And we didn't know whether we get out of there or not. And I used my morphine syrettes on the shoulder wound, keep him from going into shock, and kept him alive all night long too. Found him 40-some years later. He's the top geoscientist in the nation. Anyway, I go back out and help fight too. Before long, we're running low on ammo. The lieutenant calls for a blinking light because he's going to try to get a helicopter in with a resupply of ammo. Well, nobody jumps up, so I take the blinking light and literally low crawl out, and I'm prone position on my stomach holding this blinking light, and these flashes are coming over the top of me. And I think 2 things. What is that? And if they kick that ammunition out and try to hit this blinking light, it's going to land on top of me. I'm a dead guy. Well, they never were able to get in, so I was safe there. I turned the blinking light off, crawled back. Out there in the front line, all of a sudden I realized what was coming over. There's an RPG round over where I left my pack behind those 2 trees. I see the muzzle come out. I take a grenade, I flip the handle off, count to 2, and I throw it right over there by this tree, and the muzzle goes up in the air like that. Next morning I find him out there. The AK-47 picture that you see in a lot of the articles, that's me holding the AK-47 that I took off this dead body, and he had his hand on the trigger of the RPG and he was going to fire around into our area. So I got him just in time. Okay, the next morning, we dust everybody off and so on and so forth. I'm running around like a chicken with his head cut off. Even the dead bodies, of course, we're putting things over the top of them. We're getting these helicopters in and getting them out. And It's the last I remember. I fainted. I woke up in a aid station with an IV in both arms, and of course got to go to the bathroom real bad because they finally rehydrated me, and I had nothing to eat or drink for those 48 hours, and that's what it finally just, my body just did it, shut down, and I went down. So they take the IVs out. I go back to the LZ Center on a helicopter, and I want to get back to my unit, and Foster's there, Captain Foster, the guy that's head of all of us medics, and they had my pack there. They thought I died. They thought I was killed. And they sent me back to the unit. So battle's over, but we still, had contact the next few days with the enemy.
July 31st, 2017. James C. McCloughan is awarded the Medal of Honor for his courageous actions as a combat medic during the Vietnam War. You can learn more about his story at army.mil/Medal of Honor/McCloughan. This is U.S. Army Closer Look.
I think the job is pretty awesome.
Innovating. Insight.
Soldiers.
Mission.
Closer Look.
Those who were there.
And what we need to make sure is we have the most capable Army to deliver specific effects on a battlefield relative to U.S. national security interests.
Those experiences, those strategies.
Closer look.
Army Media.